Universal just made a huge decision towards creating a much more unified experience across Universal Studios Islands of Adventure and Epic Universe. Hello everybody, welcome. After a lengthy RFP process with the Shingle Creek Transit and Utility Community Development District, it looks like we finally have a decision that will transform iDrive and Universal Orlando Resort. When Universal purchased hundreds of acres outside of their existing Universal Orlando Resort properties, that includes Universal Studios, Islands of Adventure, Volcano Bay, and Universal City Walk and their surrounding hotels, one of the biggest concerns that everybody had was how will transportation between those two ecosystems of the existing parks and the brand new Epic Universe ecosystem, how will that work, and will it be a frustrating experience? Will it be problematic? Will it feel connected? After all, you look at their biggest competitor, Walt Disney World, and they have a completely unified ecosystem everybody refers to as the Disney bubble. Once you're in the Disney bubble, you never want to leave. They control the experience from arrival to departure. And so the thought of having to go between Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure and that area, leave that area, go out into the world along International Drive, Kirkman, different roads, dealing with traffic and lights before you get over to the Epic Universe area, is that going to be able to compete? Although the distance between those two properties really isn't that large, it isn't that far of a distance, the traffic can oftentimes be pretty bad in that area and take about 15 to 20 minutes to get between them, whether you are driving or you're using the Universal bus transportation system. In addition, as Epic Universe gets bigger, more expansions, potentially a second city walk being added over there, and maybe an additional park, along with more hotels, this traffic issue and the transit system is only gonna get worse. In addition, you think about all the things that people are going to be adding around Epic Universe, more hotels and experiences. Everyone is going to want to get a piece of the pie of Epic Universe. If you look at something like Disneyland, for example, when Disneyland was first created, there wasn't a ton of stuff around it, but once it became popular and they built that huge resort there, that new park, everybody started building things around it, restaurants, hotels, etc. And Disney got frustrated that they couldn't really control that environment and that ecosystem. They didn't like that there were all these things right outside of it. It kind of took away from the experience. So they then created Walt Disney World where they could control it. The same thing has even happened at Disney World. Disney World just happens to own a huge amount of land, but then right outside of Disney World, there are hundreds of hotels, restaurants, experiences, and the same thing has happened at Universal Orlando Resort. So people are going to continue building things around Epic Universe, things like Topgolf that's there, the Andretti Racing that's there. More hotels are already being built that are outside of Universal ownership. People are building brand new hotels right outside, lots of restaurants going up. More hotels, more experiences, more restaurants means more people and means more traffic. So things are just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. And Universal knew this. They knew this was going to happen. That's why they worked with the City of Orlando. They worked with the Shingle Creek District to create a brand new roadway experience from Universal existing properties all the way to Epic Universe through the Kirkman Road extension that was created and that traffic circle that exists within Epic Universe. And that has certainly helped, but you still have to go outside of Universal and deal with some traffic and some lights in order to get on that Kirkman Road extension and get into Epic Universe. It's still 15-20 minutes. So in August of last year, around 6 months ago, Universal and Shingle Creek, they basically embarked on an RFQ process to solicit ideas for new transportation avenues, new transportation hubs on how to alleviate traffic in those surrounding areas and reduce the traffic between Universal and Epic Universe. So you think about International Drive, Universal Boulevard, all the traffic that's happening there, a lot of it happening because of Universal. They were trying to seek different ways of reducing that congestion and figuring out better ways to control traffic. Companies like Ride Beep, Glideways and Elon Musk's Boring Company were all part of this RFQ process. And while the other vendors chose to create above ground variations or transit systems, Musk's Boring Company did something different with their technology and said, we're going to build tunnels. That's what the whole company's built on. The boring is all about boring holes down in the earth and creating tunnel systems underground to take you from point A to point B. And of course, when Musk's company came into the picture, a lot of people were saying, really? Underground tunnels in Florida? The water table is super high. Is this going to be an underwater tunnel? Are you going to be swimming with submarines? I mean, how exactly is this going to work? But ultimately, we can create underground tunnels that go under lakes and go under oceans and go through bodies of water. I think they can probably figure it out. So I guess it made sense as a potential solution. And after all was said and done and all the evaluations were done, we now have confirmation, to kind of everybody's surprise. I don't know if we thought it was going to go this way. Just as of yesterday, it's been confirmed that Musk's Boring Company is now officially moving forward. That is the selection. They felt like that met the criteria the best, and they are going to now move forward with looking at how to actually make this thing happen. So what is this system, and how exactly is it going to work, and why is it going to help create more of a universal bubble? Let's talk about the system. This Boring Company essentially creates these closed loop systems that basically travel from point A to point B, all electric, zero emissions, which I think zero emissions is pretty important when you're talking about very small enclosed tunnel spaces. You think about the fumes and buildup from gas-powered vehicles. You remove all that with electric vehicles, so you don't have to worry about suffocating to death. And this is an underground public transportation system. Now, it's important to know that one such system does already exist. It's basically a proof of concept, and it was built in Las Vegas at the convention center. It exists, and it is in operation today from Elon Musk's Boring Company. Now, this is different from a subway. It seems similar, but it's different from a subway. A subway essentially will take you from point one, like if you think about a subway track, you may have 100 stations. It will take you from 1 to 100, but along the way you have to stop at stops 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You got to stop at all those stations along the way. This system takes you literally from point 1 to point 2, or from point 1 to point 3, or from point 1 to point 5. There are actually intersections through these sort of tunnel hub systems where there is a primary hub and there could be smaller hubs between these different loops. So you take essentially a direct underground tunnel from one hub to another hub, and then from that hub to another hub. And so you don't have to stop at all these different stations. You can basically go from point A to point B in one seamless go. These are also designed specifically for vehicles, self-driving vehicles. In fact, Tesla self-driving vehicles, not meant for subway cars or railroad cars. It literally is self-driving vehicles. So the tunnels are designed to allow for driving up to 150 miles an hour in the vehicle, not the typical 50, 60 miles an hour or even 25 miles an hour that you would experience on the roadways. You're gonna be able to go 150 miles an hour in these tunnels. And you may think, isn't that gonna cause accidents going that fast? Well, let's talk a little bit about the self-driving aspect of it. That is what it is designed to do. However, they don't have self-driving built in yet. They are currently testing self-driving in Las Vegas. They've been testing it for a couple of years. They do still have safety drivers in the vehicles, but they are on their way towards getting that self-driving component in. So currently how this system works is it is similar to an Uber experience where you show up at one of the main hubs, one of the points, for example, like say the Helios Grand Hotel, you go to the hub and you essentially call for a vehicle. You may wait 15 or 20 minutes for a vehicle and then you're on your way. That's not really an optimum experience. I don't think that that'll be a great experience for Universal. So in the beginning, I think it may be these Tesla vehicles that are running in these tunnels, but I think long term they have another solution in mind. I think the better option is going to be the use of these Tesla robo-vans. You just probably saw the announcements not long ago around these robo-van concepts that essentially are almost like miniature buses fully autonomous, completely electric buses currently carry around 20 passengers and their cargo, have no driver, no steering wheel, no pedals, nothing, that are designed to get you from point A to point B just like a traditional bus system, but without a driver. And I think that's the long-term play for Universal, because these sort of robo vans will be more like a replacement for the traditional buses. They just show up, they tell you where they're going to be going to, you hop on the correct bus, and then you get from point A to point B super quickly, 150 miles an hour through these tunnels, and you're there. So if we can get to that point, it sounds awesome to me. So where are these stations going to be? What's the plan if this comes to fruition? I have a map here that shows the possible locations of where these stations will be based on the RFQ process and what they were seeking these companies to bid on. Now, these are subject to change, but these are the relative locations. So for phase 1 of this proposal, these are the green marks here on this map. These are going to take you to the Helios Grand Hotel, the Stella Nova and Terra Luna hotels, and the parking lot for Epic Universe. Phase 2 is the blue marks here. And there will be 2 stops there. One is the Endless Summer hotels over there on International Drive, and the other is the Universal City Walk. So that will give you the ability to transfer from Epic Universe or any of the surrounding properties there, those over to the Endless Summer resorts and over to Universal City Walk. Now, phase 3, these are the red gates here, and this would be for Hard Rock Hotel and a stop at the Portofino Bay Hotel. So again, unlike a subway system, you would be able to go directly through these tunnels without stopping at any of these points along the way. Although it does look linear and that there are stops, you wouldn't actually stop at those locations. So how exactly does this reduce traffic in the area, and how does it create a more experiential bubble for Universal? So if you think about it, number one, from a traffic perspective, there will be less cars traveling between the ecosystems. So currently there are people going between Epic and Universal City Walk and vice versa, and they're going between the different hotels. There will be less traffic in general, single vehicles traveling between them. Number two, there will be less Ubers and Lyfts that are going between the hotels to the parks, etc. And number three, there will be less buses up above on the surface that would be traveling between the parks, hotels, all that sort of stuff. So those 3 things will create a much lower footprint when it comes to the amount of vehicles on the road on International Drive, Universal Boulevard, Kirkman, all the surrounding areas between those 2 properties. But in order for this to really work and really pay off, it's going to rely on another transit system getting implemented. And that is the future Brightline or Sunrail station that is currently planned to go in at the Orange County Convention Center, which would essentially give you better access into Epic Universe. So if that comes to fruition, that is going to allow you to get from the airport, for example, over into the Universal ecosystem without having to take a bus or an Uber or a Lyft of some kind or a rental car. You will be able to get directly from the airport to the Universal ecosystem, very similar to what happens at Disney with the old Magical Express and the shuttles that they have now, where you could get from the airport to the Disney bubble and then never leave. So this will definitely help alleviate traffic, no doubt. However, this also really begins to truly create a Universal bubble of their own to rival Disney World. Once you are in the Universal ecosystem, you are in. You don't have to leave, you don't have to go outside of it. It's very similar to what happens at Disney. If you know anything about Disney, you take that express of some kind or Mears shuttle over from the airport, you get in the bubble and you never leave. They control the entire experience. There are so many benefits to that. They get you in the ecosystem, they keep you in the ecosystem, you never leave. So everything from the landscaping to the experiences, everything you see keeps you on property in the Disney bubble, which also means you're spending money in the Disney bubble and you're not going to competitors once you're in the Disney bubble. So Universal currently has that, but it's in 2 separate ecosystems. So this new system brings them all together again. So they can control the entire experience. You get into the Universal City Walk and Islands of Adventure and so on bubble, and then you travel from that directly through an experience that they can control that goes straight over without showing any of the outside world, right over into Epic Universe, and then back again if you want. So it basically keeps you in the Universal bubble, no need for exterior transportation. And if this goes through, this is going to be awesome. It's going to be great for Universal, going to increase their revenue, I think. It's going to make the guest experience a lot better than what it is now traveling between the two. So I'd love to hear what you think about this. Are you excited about it? Do you think it's going to work? Do you think it's going to be a good impact, powerful, being able to keep you in that? I think just for locals who live around here like me, I'm glad that it could potentially just reduce the traffic problems over there. But reducing the traffic and creating a better experience for the guests, I think this is going to be a winner for sure, if it works, if it goes through. But I'd love to hear what you think in the comments. Be sure to let me know, and like, subscribe, share this content. More videos on the way. Thanks again so much for watching. Till I see you next time, the noble way is the easy way. Bye-bye, everybody.